getting 3 days, and the conversation would not be complete if we did not discuss how COVID has affected businesses. And on this panel, like our MC rightly mentioned, we shall be discussing non-essential businesses and how they have managed to keep afloat in the pandemic. My name is Grace Ame. I shall moderate the session, and I invite the panelists to invite themselves, briefly tell us your name and what you do. So we'll begin with Mona.
Hello, my name is Mona, Umutoni Mona Lisa. I am the founder of Mona Faces and Mona Makeup Studio.
Hi, my name is Kela Mackenzie. I'm from Talent Africa Group Studios as the studio manager and A&R.
Hi, my name is Elijah Kitaka. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Feza.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Akelo Bradshaw, proprietor Tina Brad Store. I'm happy to see you all.
Okay, now that we know each other, I think we can dive into the conversation. I'll begin with Elijah. So when COVID started, we got to realize that they're actually essential and non-essential businesses and workers. So like the rest of us that were non-essential, you didn't have a sticker, I assume, and you stayed at home, but somehow your business started running. I think it must have been in April when you held your very first paid for online concert. So would like to understand what made you think that a luxury product like that would still attract people to want to attend a concert when they are literally home seated, not earning? What was your motivation?
So to begin with, I think, let me make it clear that I disagree with non-essential, the label of non-essential. I think these businesses, were halted due to a high level of risk. Because if we say they're non-essential, you would consider education non-essential because schools were closed, but me and you can agree that it's purely essential, right? And on the other side of these businesses are practitioners and people that earn a living and a livelihood from them, and I think they would heavily disagree that these are non-essential. Of course, we acknowledge that they have a certain level of risk due to the nature of the business. Entertainment, by its nature, if we do concerts, we shall attract crowds. Gatherings are tricky, so there is a high level of risk. It could be a super spreader type event, but it's in no way non-essential. I don't think there is any commercial business that puts food on the table of a Ugandan or a human that you can label non-essential. So that's the first thing. Why did we think it was necessary? If you look at the trends globally, the one thing that has happened during lockdown, during the pandemic, is highest consumption of content on all platforms. Again, this would go to debunk the non-essential tag. Otherwise, people should have abandoned it. Consumption should have dropped to zero. But then what you observed is all the data shows that consumption of online services, including entertainment, skyrocketed. So with that knowledge, we knew that we had an opportunity to get a market whose attention was now a bit more available. In your day-to-day life, you would probably be extremely busy. But since you're in lockdown, I guess we had, every business had a very unfair advantage of getting attention of this market. And those that moved fast, irrespective of which area they operate in, grabbed a share of that attention. And Feza was one of those. So we just looked at the opportunity and said, hey, people at home, people are connected, people are consuming, how can we participate?
Okay. I think this next question will go to Mona and Christine. part of the measures, global measures that were reinstated to curb the spread of the virus was the lockdown. And makeup is a very physical activity. With social distancing and the lockdown, there's barely any way you could reach out to your clients. And to think that there were no events which were, very necessary for people to have makeup. How have you managed to keep afloat? We'll begin with Mona, then Christine.
Well, picking up from what Elijah said about the lockdown, that was a time where there was the highest consumption of content. And I keep thinking about it, and like during lockdown, I remember being so grateful for the fact that I already had an online platform. My social media handles, like I had a huge following on YouTube, Instagram, so I really maxed that. I don't know how else to say it. So that was the time for me to create a lot of content, do a lot of live videos. I was talking to my clients every day, teaching them how to do makeup. I started doing online one-on-one makeup classes. And then I also was selling products because border guys were the only ones moving. So that was social media helped a lot. And I'm so grateful that I was already building that platform before the lockdown happened. And that helped me also just communicate even better with my clients. So I don't feel like I struggled as much as I would have if there was no social media. Yeah.
Christine?
Okay. For me, I did a lot of things. I learned a lot. First of all, I gave my life to God. I got born again, so I took time to research more about God, and then back to my work, I learned how to make clothes. I just used to sell, but during lockdown, I learned how to make clothes. I got a machine, so I used my time to make clothes and also send to my friends abroad, and they would buy from me, so I kept going. And then because weddings were no more, I decided to bring in casual. So I would sell casual. I have a big following on my WhatsApp, where I would put my stuff, and then people would say, deliver that. I would bring in clothes that people can wear at home. Like they can use the loungewear, then the t-shirts and all that. So I decided to change. I had to switch from the usual party dresses that I used to sell to casual loungewear, and then I would use border borders to do deliveries. People would order and would deliver. And then I also brought in bags and shoes, because we have clients, clients were working, some clients were working, corporates were working. So they needed office wear, they needed shoes and bags. So those are things I never used to sell. So I took the opportunity to sell that, and it made me money. Yeah, I'm grateful, at the same time sad that people I no longer serve the customers that I used to have. Because they come and they go like, you no longer have what we used to buy from you. So being mostly dealing with corporates. Yes.
Okay, talk about making money. This next question goes to Mackenzie. Talent Africa is really big on events. If you mention Talent Africa, the first thing I'll think about is managing artists. I'll think about content. I'll think about Nyege Nyege. I'll think about Kampala Innovation Week. And you can see it's all happening differently, Most of our audience is very virtual. How have you shifted your business considering the change in the economy?
Thank you. The good thing with Talent Africa is it's a 360 entertainment company. So because it is 360, there's different avenues to tap into. So one of the very amazing opportunities that we had, just like Elijah said, was there was just a lot of people trying to swallow content as much as could be thrown at them. And we're very fortunate to have something called Tag TV that we had created. And this was right before COVID hit, especially the lockdowns and the curfew. It hadn't hit, and we launched it literally on the Sunday in the week that the lockdown was called, because it was called on a Wednesday, and on that Sunday, we had our first showcase. And so we're the first, call it maybe an event or a media company to have something working on that day. And we were very amazed by that because we got a lot of feedback on what we need to improve, what we need to work on, and all these things. And so it took us to the avenue of working with talent, particularly just investing in people. And so we have worked, I think, with over 150 artists this past 8 months, and trying to get these artists, first of all, to mentally change their mindsets and have a better way at preserving or dealing with their craft, to make sure that it's out there. But so also to sensitize a lot of people that entertainment is not necessarily a luxury per se, because during COVID we realized that without entertainment there were people who were literally running mad, and so when you look at the world of sport and all these things that we're invested in, now we had to look at how do you invest so much in people, and so that whoever wants to work with them, there is at least an understanding that these are not just your ordinary people out there just doing things that are useless. One of the, I think, tough things about the events getting off is that the biggest revenue in Uganda is people love to be socially, converging all the time. They just want to have that, we call it party after party here. And so things like Nyege Nyege and so many other amazing products that we had that were programmed throughout the year had to be maybe rescheduled or some of them canceled. It was very painful, but then that showed us that at least you have a lot more that you can still do on the hybrid space now, like the Kampala Innovation Week is here in both physical presence and also online. We also have Nyege Nyege that is also going to have the same in that way. So we have had to literally change everything. And for some reason, when you have an event that has, let's say, 1,000 people and is physically attended, they look so many. They look very many. You look like you've had probably the biggest showcase ever. But online, we have had 45,000 people being able to view your work, and some of them getting to pay. So it's been challenging, but for some reason, it has been a blessing in disguise.
Okay, speak about blessing in disguise. Mona mentioned how she's been using social media. This question goes out to all of you. I would like for you to share with examples how you have managed to leverage digital platforms, not just social media, to not just be relevant, but continue making money. There's a lot of information out there. How do you stand out? We are literally choking on information. So how have you managed to stand out, remain profitable during this period?
Okay, with me, basically what I do is I get to post my posts, like on Facebook. Before, only Ugandans would view what I was selling online. But with this time, I decided to go as far as Congo, Juba, and Kenya. So we had cargo guys that would take things to Congo, to Juba, and Kenya. So I would use my Facebook to boost posts on Instagram, and those people would get to see my clothes, and then would send them to them. So I used my social media to do that, and it has really worked for me. People are asking me to have branches there, and I'm like, okay, we'll get there, not now, but we'll get there with time. So that's how I used my social media, and it has really worked for me.
Elijah?
So when you talk about digital platforms, the first that I would think about is the internet. So let's just talk generally about the internet and what value that unlocks for a business. So if you think about the nature of the internet, it's pretty ubiquitous right now. You can go to the corners of this country, you can go to the corners of the world, and chances are you're going to be online in one way or the other. So the first thing that I would look at, or that we looked at FEZA, was this platform called the internet, and the ability for it to connect you to customers that you would otherwise not have access to if your business remained traditional. The second thing is we mapped out our customer journey. So knowing what FEZA does, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and figure out, okay, so if a customer wanted to consume something from FEZA, what are they going to require? And then you have to work to build those pieces. So for instance, we do paid online shows. We have a pay-per-view platform as one of our products. That means payments is really important. So when you think about platforms, you have to think about payment platforms as well. So we had to quickly integrate with payment platforms that would give us scale. So today, if you go to a Feza platform, you can pay in over 9 African countries in your local currency using mobile money, which is the preferred payment method for Africa. Of course, we still support cards. So what I'm trying to explain is, once you map out that journey and you look at the digital space, the platforms that are available to you in the digital space, even outside social media, you then realize that there are pieces that can help you build a compelling value proposition and can help you to deliver value to a customer conveniently and more cost efficiently. So if you notice, one of the benefits we had was that if you came to one of our physical shows, a ticket was $100,000. That's about $30. Online, because the costs are a bit less, you have more reach, you have economies of scale, that ticket dropped to as low as 10,000 shillings.
25,
And I mean, like you're saying, for a physical event, you're talking 1,000 people and you're thinking, wow, this is a success. But online, he's managed to do up to 45,000. So you can play with that scale and figure out, okay, so how can I make it more affordable? How can I make it more accessible? How can I make it more convenient? Today, a concert that has run 2 weeks ago, you can still go back and watch it. So if you're not available, we've extended the shelf life of performances. While before, if you missed Nyege Nyege today, it's gone forever. But the nature of digital platforms is it can help you extend that shelf life. So if you're busy, if you're in a different time zone, you can wake up at your convenience and still join in and catch the experience. So this is how we've looked at digital. I know that the first platform that comes to mind for many is social media, but just looking beyond that within your customer journey can then unlock a lot of potential across digital platforms.
I completely agree, and I think it's much the same. The blueprint we've been using is pretty much the same. What I would love to maybe say, without sounding very obnoxious here, is that Talent Africa is a leading entertainment company, and so in very many ways, all the other entertainment companies that could be around, if they're not in the lead, they're looking up to that as an example or looking at that as a competition. And so we've been put in a position where you have to innovate even brand new ways and how to make it work. So again, what I've said in the earlier was that we've been investing in people, and it's one of the things that we're heavily involved ourselves in, from the different musicians that we have worked with now, on basis of partnering them with the corporate world, and trying to make sure that the corporate world is appreciative of that kind of person that we are working with. Could be a guy who is just wearing basic shoes and jeans, but he can walk up to someone in a pure tuxedo and they have the same value because they all still call, for social, awareness. At the end of the day, I think what I've understood about social media has changed, because I thought it was just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that, but it has gone to, for example, Hoover, that is hosting this particular platform. Understanding that you can actually have an event that completely runs independently on one platform and you are able to access everything. Some of these things we have had to invest in social media managers that are top-notch in the country to make sure that they give us the right statistics. So if there's a company out there that would love to get themselves engaged more online, as much as you have your way that works, as much as you have your own campaign that is probably different from others, you need to tap into the statistics. You need to actually know exactly what works. And so the strategy and the policy that you use should be in effect to what can work for you now. Because what we have learned with COVID is that something works this month, next month something happens, and you have to have a complete different way of promoting it, so you have to have the right people to work with, and for us, we've been very lucky to have a great social media team.
Well, listening to Mackenzie, you're lucky you have a whole entire team to manage your social media, because I do it by myself. My platform, for example, I feel like I've grown my following. It's been very organic from the beginning. These are people who know me, who have seen and like grown with me, watched my journey. So I feel like I still do a lot of trying to study them, understand what they're into, see what content that they want to see, ask them, communicate with them. Even for my YouTube videos, the tutorials, I'm always asking people, what content do you want to see from me? What videos do you want to see? What do you want to learn? What products do you want me to stock up on? So I feel like social media has really helped in terms of communication. Like, we're not miles apart anymore. It's like we're all together. During lockdown, I got people from all over asking me, can you send me these products? Can you teach me how to do this? So I feel like the gap is now small. We are all connected. We can all share with each other. And it goes back to us now, the business owners, learning your audience, what they want, how to communicate to them, and then giving it to them.
Okay, thank you. All of you here represent the luxury businesses that most young people want to venture into. These young people right now are not just broke, they are desperate for the old life they had. I don't know if you've heard this song, DJ Gulawe Bala, it's very, very famous. For me, it's a perfect representation of how young people feel right now. They are choked, we want to get out of home, we want to go back and sell, we want to, go back party, we want to go back and function like before. And as a result, many of them look up to people like you and want to start businesses like yours. But then it is not true that one size fits all. I cannot come out and start a makeup, studio like Mona Faces and boom and work out like you. So how can someone, an entrepreneur who wants to start a business during this period stand out? A business in what you'd call a luxury sector. Elijah says it's not non-essential. We can call it luxury. How do they stand out? How do they stand out and make sure their business really grows and thrives? I'll start with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
With me, I would advise somebody out there that wants to start maybe a clothing brand business. It's better to do. We invest more into manufacturing than just importing, because for me, I used to import. Yeah, but when we had lockdown, I had to sit home and think through what I wanted to do. So I decided to start sketching. I would use online tutorials. I would sketch, and then I would come up with something and sell and put online and sell. So I would encourage somebody out there that wants to start to think of skills, like something you can do at home. Yeah, not just waking up one day and starting a store. Yeah, you have to use your skills. And also, if the government would support us, to invest more into manufacturing than us importing stuff. We are able to do that here. We are able to do that and buy stuff here and put it in our stores. But unfortunately, we think we will always import stuff and sell that. Yeah, so I would encourage somebody to do that, to create a skill, what you love. It starts with the love, what you love to do. For me, it was the love. I loved nice clothes, nice stuff, so I ended up selling. Friends would find me and say, I love your suit, and I would sell it to them. So that's how I started. It starts with your love. Do you love something? If you love it, then go for it. Yeah, that's what I would advise.
Elijah?
All right, so how do you start and how do you stand out? COVID or not, I think the principles are the same. If you're going into business, that's the first question on your mind. How do I start a business? How do I stand out? The quick answer is you have to start. There is no silver bullet. I mean, if anyone had a silver bullet, the truth is that business has become about agility. It's what Mackenzie is saying. During this COVID, you launch something today, and 3 weeks later, you needed to actually evolve it already in 3 weeks. and you had to position it different. We're in a very fast-changing world. So if any potential entrepreneur sits down to first figure out the entire path from here until the end, you'll never get it. You start, you learn fast, you move fast. So agility for me is the way you will find uniqueness. Of course, you can look at authenticity and A, B, C, and D, but the truth is that no one has the silver bullet. If you have an idea today, probably by the time it becomes successful, it's not going to look like the original idea that you had. Your first contact with the market is going to completely change, the way you thought about the idea, your understanding of what the customer need is, your understanding of what the customer's journey is. It's all going to evolve. So the quick answer is, if you want to stand out, be agile. Be able to respond to data from the market and your learnings from the market faster than most people and faster than most businesses. And the reality is, the businesses that are being born today are being born into agility. The businesses of yesterday were born into a different mindset, traditional mindset. So that's like an additional skill set and capability they need to build. A business being formed today is formed in this environment. That's how you think. Like, you have no choice but to be agile. And if you evolve fast enough, you will always stand out because you will always be ahead of the curve.
Nice. Well, I mean, if you talk about love and starting, that is pretty much the antidote to this business knowledge, how to get it going. But just to add on that, I have two principles that I always use that I share with all the different artists, the influencers that we work with, and also people in position like Mona that we get to work with, because our main thing at Talent Africa is that on top of us doing it as a business, we also want to enhance people, because the more people you have who are aware, the more you have to make money, the more people you have that you can make money with. So I would think that if anyone wants to start, for example, like, it could even be bar business, and you want to just start a theme night in a bar, for example, as simple as that. I've always thought that you should have these three mechanisms in place, and you should make sure that your product should be obviously entertaining. It has to be entertaining. The second thing, it has to be educative, because it cannot just be entertaining. You have to tell a story in a way that someone can learn from whatever it is. It could be the way you do your work. For example, I'm a huge fan of Elijah because of what he has done. It's like, as much as it is entertaining to be on Feza, you learn how the business of online works. And for me, I feel that is super amazing for the country, not just only for his business, but for all of us, because if we had 5 Fezas, who knows what would happen, especially those that can cut across different industries. And finally, I think your business acumen should be very inspirational. It should have basically a backing of why you did this, and I think that's when we go to the love for it. So you should have those 3, and then obviously once you start, like Elijah says, I think sacrifice is important, sacrificing a lot of what you'd call your basic everyday luxuries. That definitely happens with a lot of young people in the country. Unfortunately, we have 80% young people, and 20% of the entire population is basically below poverty lines. And so you're looking at majority of these youth being in the same predicament, because if you have the majority of them being young people and most of them are broke, some of these guys are business owners, but they call themselves entrepreneurs. In other words, they self-employ themselves, but they call themselves entrepreneurs. And so they have this mentality that I don't need to work per se, like I don't need to have a job. But sometimes you need to have your main income that is coming in, and then you have something on the side that you can start with, because you need to really be able to sacrifice time and be there for that. Patience is important, because nothing builds. Yesterday we had an amazing panel here that actually made a great statement saying that if you start a business in Uganda, in the next 10 years, you could be the only person doing that business if you stick to it. And so your patience is very important. And obviously, consistency. If there is no consistency in your business, it's going to fall any day. Because if you look at Mona, she has had an amazing organic following for the past, I don't know how many years, maybe 6 years.
Yeah.
And so the numbers that she has today are not numbers that she just necessarily boosted or tried to get quick because there was COVID. These are numbers that she has actually been developing since day one. So your consistency, your patience, your sacrifice is important if your business plan is very entertaining, educative, and inspiring.
So I genuinely feel like I have nothing left to say. They've said everything. Tina said, be passionate. You've talked about consistency. I mean, originality, that's everything. Like, that's what worked for me. Being consistent, being hardworking, being passionate. I mean, my business started purely like out of passion. It wasn't there before. I had my own makeup bag, small makeup bag. I was passionate about beauty. I was passionate about making other women look beautiful and feel beautiful. I started with my friends, my small community, and with time, after 6 years, I have over 100,000 followers. So everything takes time. You have to be passionate. You have to love what you do. And also you have to keep in mind, well, this is what I keep in my mind, and it goes back again to social media. Because social media has brought the whole world together, we are not competing on only Kampala level. We are not competing on only Ugandan level. I feel like as a business, I'm competing with all other makeup studios all over the world. So I need to be on their level. If they're doing things there, why can't I do them here? What is stopping me? So you always need to think like that. And also, we're in the day of an age of sharing. People want to relate, most especially on social media. You have a voice, you have something that's unique about you. Don't be afraid to share it. Talk about it, share your journey, share everything that you're doing. There's going to be someone that's going to relate to that, and before you know it, that's how you grow your community, your following. Yeah.
Thank you, Mona.
You're
We are almost coming to the end of our conversation. Before we invite questions from the audience, this goes to Elijah and Mackenzie. Entertainment, content is a big deal in Uganda right now, and we have so many of us on social media calling ourselves storytellers, content producers. But then the irony is that it's most of us that are crying out to the president, President Tufa, Tuyambe. And it shows a need, it points to a need of having to keep up with the times. How do, should I call them entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
In the entertainment and
Startups.
content creation sector, make themselves relevant, make themselves profitable, switch and adjust to the times and see that they remain, profitable during this period.
Do you want to go first?
I can
Any
go
views?
first. No worries. So one of the amazing things about the Kampala Innovation Week is that we've been getting a lot of information that sometimes just blows your mind. One of the conversations that I had here that I was just really, I was baffled, was the discussion about the journey for the Startup Act in Uganda. In other words, first of all, how do we make Uganda a conducive environment for startups to actually make their business come to light and be recognizable? One of the very weird things is that we could not define what a startup was. Because, for example, in the world of arts, an upcoming musician, is it one who has one song, or is it one who has 100 songs and they've all failed to work? It's sometimes very hard to say who do you support and who do you tell to come up and have their say. And I think it goes back to what Elijah said earlier, saying you need to start. And when we say start, we're talking about, first of all, personal investment, because you need to have your own value before anyone values you. Because regardless of any laws that could be set up by the government or the different ministries, could be from finance to trade to whichever ministry will come in to help creators and people of this nature, the number one problem that we have is lack of personal value. And so I think we need to have people who are coming in to break doors just like how COVID broke doors without thinking about our well-being. You need to come in and break the barriers that are in front of you. In many ways, you will learn how to get yourselves to the forefront. So I think it's important to start. I also think it would be very unfair if we didn't look at the current state that Uganda is in the sense of how we trade. We are a very capitalist-driven country. Our market is very capitalist-driven. It's a free economy of some sort that even if there was laws that were gazetted for people to have fair, play, you find that there's someone in there who is going to be the number one of everyone that is there, who's going to be the number one valued person. So it goes back to understanding that you are in a world where it's survival for the fittest, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you try to be fit. If you wake yourself up to be the fittest, you will definitely get.
Can I give you a long version of the answer?
Please.
Okay, so let's start with definitions. So a startup is an entity that is trying to discover a repeatable and scalable business model. This is a startup. You're trying to discover a repeatable and scalable business model. Now, obviously, we now need to define what a business model is. A business model is how you create value and how you capture value, right? How you create value and how you capture value. The biggest issue that we have, and it's not unique to the creatives, it's not unique to this country, it's across all of entrepreneurship, is that these two things are not related. How you create, how much value you create, and how much value you can capture are totally different. Now, the reason you see a lot of what you've called storytellers, with seemingly large numbers online, big following, crying out for help, is because this value that you create and the value that you're able to capture are not the same. Now, your job as the person running the startup, you could be a musician, it could be me, it could be Mackenzie, it could be anyone, it could be Mon. Your job is to figure out a way, first of all, to deliver meaningful value, but also to figure out how to capture it. Now, the trouble is that a lot of these content personalities create the value, and they attract a lot of following because these people derive value from whatever they have to say and whatever they're doing and whatever they're offering, but they have no means, they have invested no means in how to capture that value, right? And that one-sided business modeling never works because you won't be sustainable. Now, what Mona has done is that she can create the value, and she's figured out a way to capture value. And if COVID comes, she then figures out that actually, in this situation, the way I can capture some of this value is by giving classes remotely. It's like a DIY. So let me launch a DIY product. Let me teach you how to do what I've been doing for you. You will still need my product. Let me figure out how to deliver that to you. All that is really, how can I capture value? Now, she could have, of course, delivered that online for free. And it would still have been valuable. She would be creating value, but she would capture zero, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the discrepancy you see is actually a business modeling problem. Now, the beauty about this event is this is the home of business modeling. The people that form Startup Uganda are the ones that should be teaching people about business modeling. The posters we see here, Outbox.
Mr. Zulu.
And he knows it. And in reality, that's the problem we see. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, at the backdrop of that, you then need to make certain decisions. I see a lot of practitioners, especially in entertainment, making the wrong platform choices. Because the reason they make the wrong platform choices is you have to understand the nature of this industry. There is vanity and there is actual business savviness, right? There is huge followings and there is going home hungry, right? And you have to strike a balance between being seen to be huge and being a viable business, right?
Yeah.
And usually that tension can't be resolved. And that's why you see, someone gets an accident and you have to do a drive, or COVID hits and we're the first to raise our voices. It's really that. You have to strike a balance between that vanity and business viability, and also a balance between creating value and how to capture value. Of course, the answers would be much longer, especially for entertainment, because, technology has been very unfair to entertainment. We've eroded a lot of how people captured value. Go back to how music evolved. An artist that used to sell a CD, an album, for $20, you've reduced them to selling, a song for $1.
Memory card.
Right? And now you've reduced it to one subscription, like $1 subscription a month, to have access to the world's catalog of music. So that musician now has to really think very critically about what platforms do I choose to capture value. I already know how to create it. I can bring hits to the market, and the market can absorb them, but I need to be able to capture value. So that's the discrepancy, unfortunately.
I think maybe just to just counter with that is that also one of the questions that you ask is how do they get valued? Like how can they be seen? And I think what he has explained is, unfortunately, there are very many of us who only just want to be seen. And so that is our main thing. You're looking for just some way that you can be known in the society that you've arrived, And so that needs to change, because if you work with, for example, the entertainment industry, you realize that regardless of how much you try to make them unite, how much you want them to work together and collaborate, you find that there's always like the alpha male who just wants to be the only guy. And so you find that the biggest problems come again to just inadequacy of understanding what can I put on the table, what am I able to actually bring on my own that I can get revenue from and be able to capture what I get in the long run. So we don't have people who have business plans as much, we just want to be seen, and it's a very big virus.
We've been taken to school. Arrivalism doesn't count if you don't translate it into, money, capture the value. Before they share their last remarks, does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Any questions?
Nothing.
Okay. Seems like we are good to go, so I request each of you to share your last remarks. Anything that you'd like the audience to know before we close.
Okay.
So we'll begin with you, Christine.
For me, I have one thing to say. I'm here just to encourage somebody out there that want to start a business, like my kind of business, like clothes. Most people keep saying everyone has a boutique. There are boutiques everywhere, But like we've all said here, you have to be unique. You have to stand out, People know me for, I have my own niche of busy clothes, They shine, they glitter. People know me for that. So it starts with your passion, then you create a niche, what you want to put out there, what people should know you for, And now, like earlier said, we used to do bridal, but we're now doing casuals. We're mixing things up. It's not like it was before. So what I'm trying to say is let it be a passion from you. Then think of what you can create, what you can do. Start. Let nobody say you can't. Let nobody say everyone is selling clothes. You can't do it. You just have to sit down and look at something that will sell your clothes, that will make you unique. You can start with any amount. You don't have to say, I need millions to start. I started with 50,000 shillings, and I used to buy second-hands and sell. And celebrities would buy. You will not believe it, but I have them. They used to buy those because I used to work on a TV set. So they would buy those clothes, and that's how I started. I bought the first clothes from Luzira Market, the local market. They were second-hand clothes. But right now, I have dresses in my store of 4 million, 5 million. It's unbelievable, but it's the truth. Start with what you have. Let nobody tell you you can't. Everyone has a boutique. everyone is doing this and that. You know, the time I started, there are people that were up, but right now they're telling me to sell their clothes for them. They want me to help sell their stuff for them. The time I started, they were the best, but now they're telling me to sell. So let nobody tell you you can't. You can. I started with 50,000. You can start with that. You can buy second-hand clothes of 3,000, 4,000, 5. Sell that. Save your money. Go back, buy more. You know, you never know where God will lead you. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think that's a really good point. Start. I think people just really need to start. There is no shame in failing. At least you've tried and you've learned, and the next time, hopefully it should be better. The other thing I want to add on to that is, talk to people, seek help. Like, you don't need to know it all. And again, I go back to the very nature of this event and what it stands for. It's collaboration. You've got so many players that are willing, with doors open, to help you start, to help you avoid mistakes. You know, they do this as a business. They do it on a daily. And you know, a lot of them are really willing and fully committed to helping you improve chances of success. So reach out to them, you know. Take time to figure out these logos on the screen, the outboxes of this world, Innovation Village, Hive Collab, and all the rest. I think you'd be shocked how large the network is of people that are rooting for you and want you to succeed, and are just waiting for you to reach out. Yeah.
I would love to call upon many young entrepreneurs or young people that are into whichever industry, as long as it relates to entertainment. We need more leaders. And when I say leaders, I'm not talking about people who lead others, but people who can lead themselves, people who actually know what works for them and what they are able to put on the table. Because the truth is that we have reached in the times where right now I can't waste my time trying to sit on a table with someone who does not know how to sit on their own table. And so we need leaders, we need people who are able to really sit down and actually make plans that are beyond them and they are purpose-driven. And so we need people of that nature to try and work on their mental health, because majority of the people this year that have been involved in the entertainment have actually had a lot of problems with mental. It's been a very challenging time. So this is the time that I think I would call upon as many people to come through and lead themselves so that we can at least have a great community that is full of leaders.
Again, I feel like I've just been taking notes the whole time, learning from you guys. But what I would leave with you guys is be authentic. I feel like you've said it in a way. Stay true to yourself. That's the only way that you're going to communicate to everyone else in the world. That's the only way people will pay attention to you, because, you're different. So I feel like you need to stay authentic and don't be afraid to start. And when you start, don't stop.
Be authentic. Start. There's no shame in failing. People don't want to sit on tables with people who can't sit on their own tables. Be a leader. Yeah. It's been a very beautiful conversation with you, Mona, Mackenzie, Elijah, and Christine. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and thank you all for listening to us.
Pleasure.
Yes, thank you, our panelists. Since there was no question from the crowd, the MC is going to think up something real quick. You mentioned something very interesting and pertinent to all the young people out there, that we can't take that label of non-essential and put it on artists and put it on musicians and put it on marketeers and put it on, people that have families to feed and whatnot. What label is that then we can put on these people? Because if there's a crisis, maybe they won't be able to work. How can they capture this value? Maybe in one minute as we close. The question again, we have this label, non-essentials.
Yeah.
They're marketers, entertainers, and we know that that's not true. How do they then capture this value? Because somebody said there might be a COVID 2020, COVID 2021.
Yeah.
Then how do these so-called non-essential workers, first of all, give us another term and then tell us how they capture this value in case a COVID-20 comes, a COVID 2021.
I think
in
we need
1
to,
minute.
we
I
need
think
to
we
remove,
begin with Elijah.
we need to remove N-O-N and then move with that. Let's start with
I
that.
think we begin with Elijah. You
Oh
repeated
my
that.
God, you want me to start going political now? So let me give you my theory of why this label has come up. This label comes up because of the perceived value that we bring to the table. Now, the truth and the reality is that perceived value is actually different from absolute value. Again, I don't want to go too political. To some extent, we're to blame. Now, the reason that you won't label other industries non-essential easily is that they have a very clear contribution to the economy. Now, clear contribution to the economy is actually, there is enough data that can be quantified, and you can throw numbers around that the tourism industry is X billion shillings a year, which still lacks in music. Now, why does it lack? Like Mackenzie mentioned earlier, collaboration is still an issue. Because collaboration is still an issue, it's difficult to build an industry that actually functions, right? An industry that is formalized, an industry that can be measured, whose value can be clearly articulated in numbers, right? If by the time COVID hit, we had real accurate data of how much, let's say, entertainment delivers to a consolidated fund, trust me, those labels would be different. Now, we can change that. Obviously, we can change that. I think we've chosen to remain extremely informal for a very long time. That does not help the case. That does not give you a seat on that table when we're talking about who needs to be, brought out of lockdown. You have a list of priorities based on, again, value created and value captured. If you're not able to capture any value from this industry, why would you prioritize it? Put yourself in their shoes, right? So I think if we, again, through collaboration and a deliberate effort for us to formalize and build an industry, once we do that and once the industry is structured, those labels would naturally disappear because you can't argue with numbers.
I can't say more. You said everything. You can't argue with numbers. It's I think what we're all looking for. It's a money game, at the end of the day, and the only way that the government or the country can gain from us is if they can actually know what we put on the table. So it's just a money game.
Also, to add to it, I think the word essential in itself is very relative. Because if you agree with me, the pandemic revealed a lot of need for mental health.
Yeah.
I personally know someone who was undergoing therapy, and part of what was recommended for them is actually relax, take a break, listen to music. So imagine a world where no one is creating that music. There would be no therapy for me. So essential is very relative depending on what the person who has defined it at that moment thinks essential is. Yeah.
Final word from Mona.
I genuinely feel like they've said everything.
Okay.
Everything. Yeah.
Elijah covered it all, honestly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll have a photo for our panelists and then close the session. Thank you.
Perfect.